Well, hello again, friends. This is Notes on Nibiru 11, and we'll be talking about the latest update on Nibiru, the Nibiru cover-up. And I thought it would be good to go back into some of the earlier versions of the Zetatalk archives. They first began to post on the internet in the middle of the year 1995. I think it was June or July. And there's some interesting stuff from way back then. So that'll be in the second part of the lecture. So could we go to the next slide and then the next slide after that? Okay, this month, November of 2025, has been quite interesting for me at least, in regard to new info and comments from the Zetatalk website. Now, their earlier comments indicated that a declaration of martial law, at least in the US, was imminent, with other nations following suit due to visual sightings of Nibiru becoming more frequent and spectacular. My personal observation of what was happening in the world did not support the degree of alarm that Zetatalk appeared to raise. Of course, in terms of political polarization, things are less fractured and divided here in Australia than in America. But generally speaking, I could not detect any indication of imminent alarm suddenly arising, which would require drastic action or readjustment. I think we all have a feeling, an intuition, a sixth sense when it comes to how things are going, both in our personal lives, the lives of our families, uh, the state government, the federal government, if you're interested in such things, and you can sort of get a feel for what's going on. And I just didn't feel any panic or pressure bearing down on me. Now, maybe that's maybe I'm dumbed down, who knows? But that was my experience. And indeed, in a post of just 2 days ago, 11 November, news at a talk information about the timing of the last weeks leading into the pole shift was presented, and that is quite significant. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That info appears to push any discussion of immediate alarm into a future timeline, just a bit further out than we might have thought from previous Zeta Talk comments. So next slide, please. For example, the following are comments from Zeta Talk newsletter number 999, dated the 9th of November. Lots of nines there. Under the banner, Predicted Nibiru Arrives. Quote, as predicted, Nibiru has started to move in front of the sun, thus allowing sunlight to streak through its vast petrel and debris-ridden dust cloud. The second sun was sunlighting glinting off the dust cloud, but this is now illumination. On October 31, Nibiru was being shown in a new way, the start of this new phase. As you can see, this is a photo from the 31st of October. I don't know where it was taken. That wasn't, the source wasn't identified, but it's the new look for Nibiru. Nibiru starting to move in front of the sun and, in a sense, appearing to dissolve or fracture into various disks or components or maybe even dragons. Okay, next slide, please. A monster persona of Nibiru has also shown up to the right of the sun, where Nibiru can be found at the 4 o'clock position. Okay, now this is the northern hemisphere view. Nibiru at the 4 o'clock, sometimes 5 o'clock in the clock face dial if you're in the northern hemisphere. Down here in the south, it would be the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock position. Okay, the post continues. This is not the dark twin which approaches from the left along the orbit shared with the Earth, but this is now also visible. And I found it a little bit difficult to reconcile the photographs with the description because in the first photo on the bottom left, it appears it states Nibiru left of sun as of November the 1st. And that seems to contradict the posting, which says Nibiru could be found at 4 o'clock, shown up to the right of the sun. So I'm not really sure what's going on here, but I assume that the caption of the photo is correct, and Nibiru is now being seen to the left of the sun. Now, the next two photos are very interesting because what we're seeing, the big Nibiru is just the dot, little dot. What we're seeing, the big circular sphere, the spherical uh, formation is the dark twin, the Earth's dark twin. Once again, I don't know where these photos were taken, but that's a pretty spectacular vision or persona of the dark twin. Quite stunning photographs, quite amazing photographs, really. And of course, not something you would see in the media. That's all been covered up, blackout, etc. Next slide, please. We are also starting to see serious sky glow where the petrol hitting the upper atmosphere sets this region on fire. Eventually, this will be accompanied by sounds like the moaning of the alien craft in War of the Worlds as the upper atmosphere vibrates. And there's a caption in the left image from Nancy Leader. Sky glow is the most frightening phase occurring when vast amounts of Nibiru debris crash into the upper atmosphere all at once. The middle photo is from the end of March, that would be this year in Montana. And the other two photographs, I don't know where they're from, but sky glow is becoming a more commonly observed phenomena right around the world. And of course, people are wondering what is going on, and they're not getting any answers from the establishment. Next slide, please. Okay, the photo on the left here is from Pakistan, the city of Quetta, at the end of October this year. And we can see that interesting image peeking over or just above the mountain range in the background, the outline, the silhouette of the mountain range in the background. The photo on the right is also from last month. Sorry, it's from October 2024, so it's over a year old, from Yakutia, which is northern Russia, Siberia, actually. So people around the planet are seeing these various signs in the sky, but no explanation is forthcoming. Next slide, please. It's interesting. This is from a photo taken in Los Angeles on the freeway. Sky glow caused by Nibiru debris entering the atmosphere. Dark, ominous clouds shroud the Los Angeles area, turning the sky into a striking apocalyptic yellow haze. Of course, people living in and around Los Angeles would have heard about this, presumably. Many of them would have seen it, but I doubt if it was reported anywhere else in the United States because, of course, the establishment is trying to cover this stuff up. They don't want people to know what's going on, as we've discussed over the last many lectures on Nibiru and Nibiru-related matters. Next slide, please. Okay, skyfire is also a phenomenon, and that's similar to sky glow. Skyfire happens when isolated bits of petrol from the tail of Nibiru burn in the lower levels of the atmosphere, thus closer to Earth. But sky glow occurs in the upper atmosphere, involving more widespread petrol burns, which are more spread out. Technical difference, technical differentiation, but they're both caused by the same phenomenon, namely petrol from the tail of Nibiru either igniting in the lower atmosphere or the upper atmosphere and causing either sky fire or sky glow. Next slide, please. All right, recently some sky fire sightings appeared above Belgium, the Belgium airspace, and it disrupted airplane traffic there apparently. But the media and the authorities identify the objects as drones. So hey folks, let's all just blame the sightings on Putin and Russian drones. Another incentive to hate Russia and hate Putin because they must have been sending drones over Belgium. No, not at all. These were sky fire, uh, as the photo from November 5th indicates. And we'll go to the next slide where I've printed out this is the caption. A photograph of one of the unidentified flying object that disrupted Belgium's airspace yesterday has surfaced. These sightings are reminiscent of the mysterious drones reported in New Jersey. And I think that happened last year, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, not reported here. Why would the mainstream media want to tell us about what happened in New Jersey? Strikingly, these objects appear impervious to anti-drone technology. Well, okay, that means they're not drones, right? Authorities seem unable to determine their point of origin or destination, so they don't know where they're coming from. They are impervious to anti-drone technology, so they're obviously not drones, but they're being called drones by the mainstream media. That's the state of affairs on planet Earth at this time, my friends. It raises the intriguing possibility that these may not be drones after all. Guess what? Sure looks like skyfire. Nibiru debris burning up in the atmosphere. Next slide, please. Okay, there's another variation on petroblobs from the tail of Nibiru floating in the atmosphere, and that's what I call sky sheen. This is not the term used by Zetatalk, but it popped into my mind, so I thought it would be a good term to use. And here's an image of a petrol smear, call it sky sheen, spotted over the South Island of New Zealand, a place called Twizel or Twizel, which is in the Canterbury area, and that would be Christchurch. So I think Twizel is somewhere west of Christchurch. Not exactly sure where, but a very lovely image. It's not really sky fire, not really sky glow, so we'll call it sky sheen. Next photo, please. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Nibiru deniers are still putting their hopes in or on the Comet 3I Atlas, hoping the masses will confuse the Nibiru appearances with comet sightings. Where the Nibiru cover-up crowd hopes to confuse the bright Nibiru with Comet Atlas, Atlas has its own opinion on the matter, as the gravity and magnetic pull of the massive planet Nibiru has pulled Atlas towards it. Now, I talked about this in the last session we did, Notes on Nibiru 10, on the 30th of October. And basically, what's happening is the projected orbit or trajectory of Comet 3I Atlas is not happening as it was predicted. But instead of telling us that that projected orbit or trajectory is not actually happening, they're denying it's even occurring at all. So, so you can see the state of affairs on planet Earth now, with lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. And you got to each lie you tell, you've got to tell another lie to cover up the lie you just told, and then other lie you tell, you just keep on going. It never ends, never ends. So that's the situation on Earth regarding Nibiru and Nibiru-related matters. Sad to say. Next slide, please. Okay, a recent post from Zetatalk. There are various signs in the sky showing that Nibiru has arrived. Yes, guess what, folks? From glorious petrol rainbows to a moon eclipse plus second sun, at dawn, neon clouds, rainbow sheens on clouds, red dust, green skies, and sky glow horizon to horizon. Is that enough for you, folks? They are all Nibiru's tail effects and increasing as the hour of the passage approaches. And of course, the establishment are doing their best to cover all this up, to state the obvious. Next slide, please. Okay, here is the latest posting or update from Zetatalk, and I believe this is an extremely important post, extremely important analysis, because it gives some specific dates, specific timeline. So, quote, the last weeks leading into the passage, and the passage also means pole shift, according to Zetatalk. The last weeks leading into the passage will begin before the end of 2026 and lob into 2027. So previously we were told that the pole shift would either be at the end of 2026 or early 2027. And this latest post seems to indicate it will actually be the latter date, sometime in early 2027. Significant detail there. Before the last weeks, there will be an increase of all sky signs and wobble-induced storms. There will be no outright denial by the establishment, but the lack of leadership during this time will add to the sense of panic. Now, that's a very interesting statement. The establishment won't deny that it's Nibiru, but they won't show any intelligent leadership either. Martial law will increase from having the National Guard clean up crime in cities in the US to addressing riots and protests. And what will it be like here in Australia? Well, your guess is as good as mine. We don't really know. We don't know. It will be, I think, less severe than what is going to happen in America, but we don't know exactly what the conditions will be. Who knows? This will be the status by April 2026, which is only 5 months off. Meanwhile, Nibiru will be a bright object illuminated for all to see. Debate will continue. Next slide. And the post continues, migration will change from existing patterns to chaos with people running in all directions. Airplanes will be grounded as International Space Station and satellites are struck by debris. 37% of the population will resettle along the way. And when they say 37% of the population, that means the total population of Earth. That's my interpretation anyway. So that's a figure that's going to be in the billions. What's 37% of 7 billion plus? Is it something like 1.52 billion? That's a lot of people. With the increase in quakes, ocean sloshing, and tectonic drift, people will demand answers, and there will be none. That is very interesting. Surely our good friends in the scientific community, especially the astronomical community, surely they will come up with answers, right? Professor Brian Cox from the University of Manchester, who did all those really good series on the planets and space, um, it was a really good series, actually, very intelligently presented. And he's a very appealing personality, very appealing character. What will Brian Cox be saying? Or will he just go into silence? Well, God only knows. We really don't know. Nancy will be on TV to provide Zeta Talk prophecy. That's interesting because the establishment now and for since 1995 has basically shunned Nancy Leader, portrayed her as a quack, a freak, God knows what, but certainly no one, certainly not a person that's talking sense. You can just ignore her. She's a crazy woman blabbing nonsense. So will she actually be on TV? Well, who knows? We shall see. Disclosure will be pushed thus. Russia will come through with truth. And I believe that. Russia will probably be one of the first to admit that it's Nibiru. They have the Far East and China and India will be joining them. The US and Canada, Mexico is a logical join and will happen smoothly. Now, I don't believe that last sentence. Having been born in the United States and spending a few decades there and then spending 17 years in Canada, I really don't believe the truth will be revealed in either America or Canada, especially not with Donald Trump in power or the Canadian Prime Minister. I forget his name at the moment, but he's a total moron, total nutcase. So that's the prediction. That's the prediction. We'll see if it happens or not, because to be quite honest, Zetatalk has made predictions in the past which have not come to pass. So this is an interesting prediction. They give some hard figures like 37% of the population resettling, but will it actually come to pass? Will Nancy Leader actually be on TV talking about Zetatalk prophecy? Well, God only knows. But we don't have long to wait because April 2026 is not that far off in terms of time. Next slide, please. All right, let's mine the Zetatalk archives. Let's talk about the two groups of humanity as viewed from the spiritual perspective of the Zetas, viewed within the context of the transformation of Earth. And this is from way back in December 95. Our stay on Earth, our first stop after soul birth, when the soul is sparked, requires a decision to become empathetic and caring, or to stay self-focused. Those who choose the latter, to remain selfish, are simply not growing. Like newborns, they remain focused solely on themselves. That's a very interesting statement and a very profound one. You'll have to make up your own mind how correct you think that may be, how accurate, how true. Our understanding, many of the people in this Zoom session are in the theosophical tradition, particularly Maitreya Theosophy, and we have our own, let's say, context, our own phrases which are used. But to me, this analysis by Zetatalk is very deep, and I think there's a lot of truth in it. But well, again, make up your own mind. Okay, the Zetas call these souls service to self, as they are serving themselves in the main. Truly hardened service to self souls thinking of others only about 5% of the time. That means 95% of the time, they only think about themselves. The Zetas call these souls, those souls who have chosen caring for others, practicing the golden rule, service to others, as they are serving others at least 50% of the time. That's another very, very interesting analysis. And again, I reckon that's a very profound statement. And it's interesting way, an interesting yardstick to measure our own outlook. Are we service to self? Are we focused on ourselves? Are we service to others, thinking of the welfare of others at least 50% of the time? Very interesting statement. The characteristics, that's to say, caring versus selfishness, are not always easy to discern. Next slide, please. From July 95. There's a common misunderstanding, sorry, that being this that service to others is all bleeding heart concern, and the service to self is snarling greed. But nothing could be further from the truth. An example, look to ourselves. We are service to others zetas. Do we not defend ourselves? Do we not have particular goals we press? Do we lie down and let others walk all over us? Yet we are concerned for the general welfare and work hard to improve this for ourselves as well as others. Now, that's a very profound statement as well, very profound. And it continues on the next slide. Likewise, the STS, service to self, are often misunderstood. As we have mentioned elsewhere, they can be charming and diplomatic. The key is the goal, not the goal stated, which may be packaged to appeal to those to be duped, but the actual goal. And of course, when I read that sentence, I thought, well, politicians all over the world. I mean, that's that should be that that's like a neon sign applying to most politicians in this country and others. We have a few good ones here. There are a few good ones in countries like the U.S., but not very many, sad to say. Okay, reduction in pollution laws, packages enabling employers to stay in business is in fact a power play by those who resent any restrictions on their power. The unemployment rate has nothing to do with this, but is waved about as a reason. Wives are familiar with the common husband excuse for late hours and avoidance of home chores. The job requires this, and the wife should bear in mind who is slaving away to bring home the bacon. And that's what I tell my dear wife Mary, but maybe she doesn't quite understand. No, that's a joke. I'm retired, thank God. In sum, the service to others individual may be a gruff, distracted, disheveled, and inaccessible. But what are they working toward? How do they react when a truth test comes, where they must be willing to sacrifice themselves for others? And that's a key phrase, sacrifice themselves for others. That our late teacher, Lady Ananda Tarashan, talked about the willingness of the disciple, the true disciple, to sacrifice themselves for a greater cause. So that this fits right. It's right in line with Maitreya Theosophy, as I understand it. Do they come through? And the service of self-individual may be suave, seemingly generous, even defending others. But when their welfare is lined up against another, when they must truly share and words are apt to be replaced by actions, what then? So that's how you can differentiate the two. But it's not always easy because people can project an image, and they often do, especially politicians and whatever, that is totally at odds with their inner self. And that makes it hard. Makes it a hard task on this planet to actually intuit or guess what the inner motive of any particular individual is. Next slide, please. All right, from May 96. When ready to leave our first schoolhouse, Earth, souls who have been born here must be separated. Else the selfish, given more technology, will use it to take more advantage of their good-hearted neighbors. And that's a very profound statement as well. We're living in a very highly technological age, and what we're doing now, having a Zoom meeting, is a result of high cutting edge technology. So technological advancement is all around us, and we can use it for good or the reverse. But some people choose to take advantage of it. And Chandra's lecture was very good because she talked about the plans of the government and those behind the government and control the government to maybe misuse some of the technology, in particular the digital ID. Okay, those who have been able to take advantage of others suddenly find themselves reincarnated into hell. Interesting statement, where they must live among others like themselves. This is, in fact, what hell is, a self-centered living among their own kind. Heaven, of course, is where the caring and empathetic have only others of a like mind about. Heaven and hell, truly of our own making. It's a very profound statement, my friends. Next slide, please. Where are we on Earth now at the present day? This is from July 1995, so it's about 30 years old. Neither heaven or hell, but a schoolhouse where young souls are to make their decision to be caring or self-focused. But the school term ends shortly because of the coming pole shift, when a massive die-off of 90% of the Earth's population will occur. And I had a bit of a internal conflict about putting that figure in this lecture because I've been well aware of it for a long time. But it's a huge number and it's a prediction, and Zetetalk predictions in the past have not come true. This one may come true. It may be 90% or close to it. It may not be anywhere close. God only knows. So I wouldn't get too hung up on it, but that is their prediction as of 30 years ago. But things may have changed since then. This has been administratively scheduled to be a transformation period for the earth, a type of graduation, and therefore to be a home for the service to other souls, we could call them. What Jesus described as the meek inheriting the earth. This transformation takes some time, as each human is allowed to live out their lifetime to complete their current incarnation. In the meantime, due to the pending separation of the spiritual orientation, those who are caring or self-serving become increasingly polarized. And that's another very, very deep, very, very profound statement. Many people have noticed that humanity really seems to be separating into two groups at this point in time, and for several years past, but it seems to get more noticeable, possibly more intense, more obvious with each passing year, even each passing month, sometimes even each passing week, that the service to other camp or category of humanity is, in some ways, you could say, on the increase. And people are wanting to live in a world which is kinder, more compassionate, more sharing, more caring, more loving. But the opposite is also true. Those who are service to self are becoming more vicious, more aggressive, more unrestrained in their use of blatant threats against the democratic traditions of countries like Australia, the US, Canada, the UK. So there's a real polarization going on, and I'm sure you've all noticed that in your own life. A real polarization between the service to self and service to others. And that's the world we live in. Good versus evil, light versus dark, love versus hate. It's all happening, folks. It's all happening. Next slide, please. All right, here's an explanation of the transformation process for the Earth and humanity from September of 2019. Lizette has described the transformation of planet Earth to be both physical, as in the pending crustal slip during the passage of Nibiru, and spiritual. And that's a very profound statement because most people who read the Zeta Talk info, including myself, tend to focus on the physical changes, earthquakes, volcanoes, tectonic plate in movement, this happening, that happening. But it's actually a spiritual transformation going on as well. The spiritual transformation is gradual and invisible except by its outcome in human society. Those souls born on earth who have become service to other are allowed to reincarnate on earth. Those souls who have remained self-focused, service to self, are taken to a prison planet. Now that dovetails almost precisely with the teachings from our dear late teacher, Lady Nanatar Shan. She talked about Earth 2, a planet somewhere way out in space, we don't even know where, being prepared for souls on Earth who will be sent there because those souls have not yet learned basic positive emotions like compassion, sympathy, kindness, love, whatever. Zetatalk uses the word or phrase prison planet. Ananda used the word Earth too, but I reckon it's basically the same thing. And here's a sentence which is very controversial, and you'll have to make up your own mind about the truth or otherwise of it. The majority, those still undecided, are transferred to a water planet to incarnate into intelligent octopi. Octopi is the plural of the word octopus. Now, you may make up your own mind about that. For me, I have a bit of problem actually accepting that literally. It may be symbolic, who knows? But in the end, you have to make up your own mind about this information as anything else you may come across in your lives. Next slide, please. From July 95, the Earth is undergoing a subtle transformation as the transformation is now. This transformation has been progressing for at least this century and will go for at least a century more. I should mention that Zeta Talk has mentioned three individuals two individuals in a group who are key in the transformation process. First and foremost, Zeta Talk, the Zetas, the extraterrestrials from the star system Zeta Reticuli, and their emissary on Earth, Nancy Leader. But Zeta Talk also mentions Julian Assange, and need I say any more? His work certainly was a lot transformed a lot of things. It really showed a lot of people, millions of people around the world, billions of people, in fact, probably, that governments could no longer be trusted just about anything. So Assange certainly was a very transformative figure. And he paid, of course, he paid a very heavy price for what he did. The third figure they mentioned was Benjamin Fulford. And that's quite interesting. I normally try to look at his videos at least once a week. And I think a lot of what he says is correct, but sometimes he misses. He misses the point or he is off. And when he misses things, sometimes it's by a wide margin. So I don't advise that you accept everything that Benjamin Fulford says. Literally, you have to think about it yourself, make up your own mind. But he is a good source, and they specifically mention him and Julian Assange in the transformation process. It's interesting too, they're predicting it's going to go on for a century. So it's not a slow process, not a fast process. It takes time. From December of 96, during the transformation, gradual polarization of the two spiritual orientations occur so that service to other groups emerge and grow in numbers, while service to self groups harden and become more intense in their power trips. And that is exactly what's happening today, and for the past several months, and for the past many years. In a nutshell, this is a brilliant, brilliant analysis, in my opinion. Next slide, please. All right, this is November 95. This separation is by choice, in that the service to self do not want to live with the service to others. But most of the souls on earth are undecided per the Zetas. So we have the undecided souls, and now they actually give numbers. Quite interesting. The percentages are 25 to 30% service to other, depending on the number of walk-ins at any given point. Now that's an encouraging figure, but then again, it only means that maybe one quarter to one third, almost one third of humans are service to others. 5 to 7% are service to self, as on occasion there's last minute incarnation for the final opportunity to choose, and the rest undecided. So that leaves a lot of people who are sort of floating or not really committed to one side or the other. And of course, that is problematic because when nasty things happen, like digital ID, the imposition of digital ID, which Chandra covered in great detail, or COVID-19 lockdowns, shutdowns, whatever, the masses have to stand up. They have to realize, first of all, they're being manipulated by lies and hoaxes and phony excuses. And I think people are learning that about the COVID lockdowns from, let's say, late 2020 to 2022, 2023. I think people are definitely waking up about that. But on other things, we're not really sure. Okay, these final comments are from Nancy Leader. Doesn't sound like a clear delineation to me with all those undecideds in the mix. And that's the problem. where will the undecided decide to go? In the direction of light, in the direction of darkness? Will they be attracted to to people who are service to other, or will they be attracted to people who are more selfish, service to self? It's a battle that's playing out basically every day of our lives, and all you got to do is turn on the television news and watch even 5 minutes of the news, and you can see exactly what's going on. Now, do families divide nicely into service to others or service to self or undecided? Not my family, that's for sure. And I think that's a brilliant comment. And is that the last slide, or is there one more? Yes, that's the
It's
last
the
one.
last one.